Just sit tight, everybody. We'll be starting in a few minutes. We're going to give everyone a little bit of a chance to get logged in, and we're about halfway there. So please sit tight, and we will be restarting the broadcast just a couple minutes after the hour. Stand by.
All right. Looks like we are live. We are rolling. Welcome, everyone, to Tech Talk Live. This is episode 2. I'm Troy Locke. I'm the manager of technical training and technical support out of our New Hampshire Seminar Center. And 2,000 miles west of me, I have my colleague and friend, Bo DeAngelo.
How's it going, everybody? Good to see you today.
So this is our new series that we developed to bring you insights on all the Viega innovations, the Viega solutions, all the press technology that we offer and different things like that. And on a note, this is a live Q&A session. So if you look at your control panel, whether you're on your iPhone, your laptop, an iPad, a tablet, something, just touch that screen. You're going to see a ask a question or a Q&A icon. Click on that Q&A during the entire episode, and we're going to answer your questions live on air. So just make sure you do that. There's a chat function as well. The chat function, that's going to be for offline comments. So if you just want us to email you some literature or ask a question offline, get a hold of us that way. So there's a chat function, but if you want to have your questions answered live today on this episode, use the Q&A or ask your question box, type them in there, and Bo and we will answer those questions. A few shout outs I would like to do today. A few people that are online that I want to shout out to. I have Gem Plumbing out of Rhode Island today. So fellow New Englander. So thank you for joining. I got Design Air. So they're our HVAC distributor out of Wisconsin. I got Delta Q Rep Agency out of California. Great group. And then Canadian Aqualine out in Vancouver and Calgary. So thank you very much for tuning in today. Appreciate you all here. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Trainer Troy. So you can see latest, greatest videos on there, advertisements for tech talks and things like that, and communicate with me there. So what I'm going to do today is today's episode is we're going to be talking about the performance of press technology. And I'm going to hand it over to Bo because he's got some great things. We've got some demonstrations to show you. He is actually in our seminar center in the Interactive Learning Center. And of course, I'm working out of the back of my truck. So take it away, Bo.
Thanks, Troy. Appreciate it. So thanks, everybody, for getting on. We've got most people logged in at this point. Really excited to see you. Troy, it's killing me, man. You're rocking the old school Viega Eagle t-shirt. I'm telling you, we should bring them back now. At least 3 people in our marketing department passed out after I said that. They all had coroners. So like, please no, but I'm telling you, the Viega Eagle rocks. We need to get that shirt back. That's the old color. I have a black one. I actually gave it to our senior technical trainer, Dave Gunderson, old Gunny. He's got it now. I figured he had been back to the old seminar or the New Hampshire Seminar Center back in the old days. So I figured he deserved it. But a couple comments on the shirt, man. That's a good one. And people are freaking out. Yeah, everyone's asking for shirts. So marketing, you're getting it right from the horse's mouth. The customers are speaking. They want the Viega Eagle back. You're going to have to get on it. So there you go. You've been called out. What can I say? Nice, Troy. Thanks for modeling.
Oh
So
yeah, no problem, man. I mean, this is a good one, and I want to shout out to my boy Bryce Eubanks, our product engineer in metals. He sent me this shirt back in the day, probably in, I don't know, 2012, 13, something like that. So thank you, Bryce, because you can't find these anymore. If I rip it, I'm gonna be sad. I'll just wear it all holy and stuff. So
sad day when you. Yeah, well, it's all right. I think they're coming back. I happen to know of some Viega Eagle socks that are kicking around. So if you get a good topic for Tech Talk Live and you email us at techtalk@viga.us, you might get some Viega Eagle socks. Just saying. So chucking that out there. So today we're talking about Smart Connect. We're talking about the performance of press technology. We're talking about the capabilities of press technology. We're talking about all the things that make Viega press technology what it is and what it's become today. And what I want to do is I want to show you right out of the gate what Smart Connect is. And I want to talk about Smart Connect a little bit before I do that. Why do we care? Well, Troy, why does it matter? Why do we need Smart Connect? Why do we need a method to test for unpressed connections?
Well, as a master plumber myself, installer, this is a great benefit because it allows me to identify an unpressed connection, an unpressed fitting during a pressure test. And we always have to pressure test our fittings regardless of the joining method, right? So this is a way to allow me to alleviate a false positive. And what I mean by that is traditional methods, CPVC glue joints, sweat fittings. If I flux that up, clean it up, dry fit it, the lunch truck comes, I love to eat. I go out, I get a sandwich, I come back, I'm like, oops, maybe I forgot where I left off. I just keep going to town. I'm putting in 100 some odd, 1,000 some odd fittings, whatever it is. I go to pressure test. That flux can hold that fitting on. And it can give me that false positive. That gauge is holding. And I might think, hey, everything's good. Glue joints, they do the same thing. You dry fit it all up to try to make it look pretty. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Then you disassemble it, glue it, put it together. You miss a joint. Well, that dry fit is so tight in a CPVC, same thing, you get a false positive. So with a press connect technology from Viega, you're going to have a 100% proven way to identify an unpressed connection. You won't leave the job site with that false positive. So you can have that warm, fluffy feeling at night that everything's buttoned up tight. And, back in the day, on my Nextel, my pager would go off. Now it's my iPhone, right? So, you can sleep well at night when you're putting Viega fittings in.
No doubt. And the thing to understand with Smart Connect, it's all Viega fittings. The exception would be a bronze pure flow fitting. But every other fitting system that we developed has Smart Connect. So you have a proven way to identify an unpressed connection. And it's a simple pressure test. I'm going to get into what that is. But why don't we take a look and see how it works? I've got a great example here. I'm broadcasting literally from a rolling mail cart in the middle of our interactive learning center in Broomfield, Colorado. It's a gorgeous day outside in Colorado. There's not a cloud in the sky. It's a good 85 degrees out. It's just absolutely spectacular day. And you can see behind me half of the interactive learning center where we do a lot of our training tours when we have you here for training, which as soon as we open back up, we can't wait to see you because there's nothing like a live instructor-led training experience. And we have the industry's best instructors out there. Our trainers are rock solid. They all come from the field. They all know what they're doing, and they can't wait to get back in front of you. I can tell you they're all going crazy because they're from the field too. So they can't wait to see you. So I'm going to flip over to the Smart Connect active display, and it's a polished display. It's not an actual live plumbing system, but it's piped to live water in the building. And I'm going to give you a demo of what exactly Smart Connect does and what's happening under flow conditions, and we're going to make a press. So stand by. I'm going to switch over right now and show you how that works.
I want to thank Viega for building these displays for us with Matrix because I used to do this outside. You can ask Joel Tarcha. He's in a video with me back in the day. I did this outside with a hose bib, probably 40, 50, 60 PSI, whatever it was coming off that. And I do it towards the end of the trainings because I'd always get soaking wet, So I appreciate Viega for investing in building these interactive learning displays with Matrix out of Illinois. So they're great displays. I can't wait till we open up our seminar centers and have you all in there to witness the state-of-the-art interactive learning center. Hands-on, everything's live, all products, fantastic.
I think you should, I've seen that video of you doing these Smart Connect tests outside with a hose, with a garden hose. And the garden hose is leaking, you have water spraying everywhere, you know, you're trying to hang on to the end of it. I think you should post that video. I think people need to see that. Just chucking that out there.
I definitely will. I'll post it on my Instagram. I'll get into the old archives and post it out there. I'll chuck it out there for sure.
There you go. So what you're seeing right now is a Smart Connect display, and I'm trying to stay out of the field of view here. I am going to step in and make the press in a second here. But you've got 3 different fitting systems. You've got Mega Press down at the bottom. You have a polymer PEX press fitting in the middle, connected to some 3/4 inch Viega PEX Ultra, and then at the top you've got Pro Press. And the Mega Press is, we've reduced that down so it's not dripping very much, but you can see that the Pure Flow fitting and the Pro Press fitting is, you know, pouring water right now because they're unpressed. Okay, we can't hold pressure, and I don't know, you should be able to see, at least you can see the gauge there that's in this display. I've got nothing showing on the gauge. Okay, I've barely got any pressure on the gauge, and I've just got running water, domestic water coming through this system. And the Pro Press fitting is actually installed a Viega test plug. And what the Viega test plug does, and we showed this on a previous webinar, but the Viega test plug is a really handy device. And what it does is it allows you to actually test a press fitting without pressing the fitting. Okay, and what it does is it just threads, unthreads, and you insert your press fitting into the end of the test plug, and you tighten it down, and you can attach your test gauge setup and test manifold to the hose bib on the back end. And that's what we've got going here. That particular press fitting, the cap and the coupling, is inserted into that test plug. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and make this press. And I've got, oh, sneak peek there. It's like one of the new rigid Viega tools. I wonder where that came from. Pretty sexy. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and make a press connection on the cap. And now I'm going to go ahead and make, you can see now it's just running out of the coupling there. I'm going to go ahead and make my press connection on the coupling. And we are rock solid. No more drips. We're able to hold pressure. We're dry. And we're ready to commission that building if that were a line that we were working on. And if that were a live test, if we were actually conducting a hydrostatic test in a building, and we had a fitting that wasn't fully inserted, wasn't pressed yet, we could go up, make sure we saw the mark on the fitting, make sure it's fully inserted, press it, and continue our test without having to stop, drain the system down. Of course, you know, if you're soldering, you have to get it completely dry to make your solder connection. So Smart Connect is a quick, easy, proven way to identify an unpressed connection. And you can find it on all the fitting systems. So for example, Mega Press G, right? Sure don't want to have a gas fitting that's unpressed. You don't want to have a loose fitting in a gas line that's threaded. So the same would be the case for a press connection. So you've got a proven way to identify an unpressed connection with Mega Press G. Here's Mega Press. Okay, it's identified by the dot. Every fitting carries a dot. Here's a polymer PEX press fitting, 2 by 1.5 inches by 1. You can see the dots on all of the fitting hubs. Okay, regular old, good old Pro Press, been around since '99. There it is right there, green dot right above the Viega. Smart Connect, I know it's there. And then large diameter Pro Press fitting, 2.5 through 4. There's that green dot. Last of all, here's Mega Press stainless. This is a stainless 304 fitting in Mega Press. White dot, identifying a different sealing element, different alloy, but the dot is what you're looking for. And that's what makes it identifiable as an authentic Viega press fitting. And if anyone just wanted to see the difference between tube and pipe, there's a good example of the size difference between tube and pipe. The bottom, of course, is Pro Press copper tube. The top is iron pipe size stainless steel. Both 2.5 inch fittings, but just to give you an idea of the dimensional differences between tube and pipe, if anyone was curious. So Smart Connect is a sure way to identify an unpressed connection every time.
That's awesome, Bo. I think we got some questions rolling in, don't we? We have anything going on that? I just see my phone going up. I see phone calls coming in. It's messing me all up, but it's awesome. I love it. I love the engagement.
You know, I feel it's funny today because, like, you know, we said last time we're like kind of on a shoestring budget. We're just doing this with simple technology. I'm running literally from a mail cart in the middle of the hallway. Got my laptop propped up here, and I'm spoiled because I've been doing webinars. We got another trainer doing a webinar. Tim Severance doing a webinar today. A credential, a MegaPress credentials. Sign up for those online. Go to viga.us/training. And you can sign right up for any of our online trainings. They're available all the time. They're open to everybody. Sign up. We'll email you a credential card that says that you've attended or received factory training from Viega on that system. So definitely get signed up for those. But you know, in there in the webinar room in our workshop where we've set up kind of like a webinar station, I've got a screen, I've got speakers, now I'm like, I feel powerless. I got this little laptop screen. I don't know how you do it on the phone, man. You're a pro. You're a pro.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I kind of like it. The only thing for me is anything could happen behind me. I mean, I got loggers in the background here taking down some trees. They got people firing guns somewhere else because live free or die in New Hampshire. So, you know, like you said, this is just kind of off the cuff, having fun, shoestring budget, but I'm enjoying it, man. This is good stuff.
Good stuff. So a question came in about what sizes the test fitting is available in. And currently they're available in 1/2 to 2, 1/2 to 3/4. They used to be available 1/2 to 2, but just not selling enough of those. Usually you can get on to make a test at a 3/4 connection, or in some cases a 1/2 inch connection makes a lot of sense. So 1/2 to 3/4 is what we currently offer them in. Super handy, totally reusable. You're gonna, you know, you buy once and you know, you got it, and keep it in your toolbox and, you know, build up your test gauge and you're good to go. Hopefully someday product management, I happen to know there's a few PM people on the Tech Talk Live episode today. We keep getting asked for one for MegaPress. So just chucking that out there.
No, it is true. And I mean, most time you can get to a 1/2 or 3/4 inch stub out or hub of a fitting, whether it's a T, a 90, a 45. I happen to have the part number for 3/4 because for me that's the most popular, but it's 78207 if you all can see that right there. But they're reusable. That's the best part about it, right? So I can take these back off, you know, unthread them, put them in my bucket, and then use them on the next job. So even with the cost of them, doesn't matter because they're reusable. You know, it's not sweating on a cap or my own test jig. You know, I can actually now just pop these off, pop these back on. So it's great fitting. I love it.
Yeah, handy thing to have, really handy thing to have, and it's made for ProPress. So another question came in. Thanks for doing this, guys. This is what we're getting. Really happy to do it. So you're very welcome, Joel. We're asking what's next. He's asking what's next in the press technology future. What's coming? I'll let Troy answer that, but I can tell you I got a little sneak peek of what's coming too. So.
Hey, yeah, listen, I never like to give launch dates, especially now with the uncertainty and, you know, the pandemic, the global pandemic. So with us, we've launched our 3-piece MegaPress ball valves in carbon steel and stainless. I mean, I got one right here, right? So it's the carbon steel, green dot, green stickers. So 1/2 to 2 inch on these. And we will be launching 2.5, 3, and 4 inch large bore MegaPress valves. So that's really cool. We will be launching our MegaPress G. So our gas valve will be launching as well. I mean, you know, we've already launched all the way up to 4 inch MegaPress on gas, 4 inch MegaPress for hydronics and, you know, industrial and stainless. So we have a lot of different, you know, things in the works, more valves in the works. You know, there's always been talk about our refrigeration, med gas, and that's a question I actually still get weekly. That project, I don't know where it sits. I don't know if Bo's heard anything more, but I don't know where that project sits as of right now. So yeah, lock and key, throw it away, it's secret. So, you know, there's a lot of things that we're working on, a lot of things. We look at the market share, we look at what the demand is from our customers. And I'll be honest with you right now, it's MegaPress. It is MegaPress and valving hands down. That is a big demand.
So great point, Troy. We don't like to kind of give out too much, but a question came in about that you were holding, and he's asking if MegaPress will be slow opening. And well, of course, that'll depend on the actuator, but I don't know if you want to comment on the pad for the actuator and so forth.
Yeah, so the pad on the actuator, we actually have the torque specs and tech support, so we can get you that documentation, because the pad that is on here, we can actually, you know, have a mounting pad for actuation. So it can be slow actuation. The torque specs, I just don't remember off the top of my head, but we do have those in tech support. So if you email tech support at viga.us, we can get you all the technical literature for this valve right here, or all of our valves, because we even have a ProPress stainless 3-piece valve. We've had that for a while now with the same mounting pad. So everything is right there, give you the torque specs and everything. So yes, we don't sell the actuators, but all of our professional wholesaler partners or distributors, people that we partner with, they're gonna have those offerings for you.
So I can tell you that if you come to at least the Colorado Seminar Center, and hopefully we'll be able to see it in the Seminar Center in the future here, you'll actually be able to see a sneak peek of Space Press. So, you know, but you know, you'd have to come to Colorado for that, but just saying, I'm not trying to sell Colorado. Either Seminar Center is world-class. Just saying, you can see Space Press here. So Troy, I'd love to know what's going on in the lockdown garage there.
Yeah, obviously. So today, because we're going to be talking about the performance of press technology, I kind of want to get into a couple little items that we actually test our systems to through IATMO PS117. That is a performance standard that we test to and we get listed to. We get a certificate of compliance, and a lot of your major codes and a lot of major codes and engineering specs and things like that, they actually reference that performance standard. And that's how we get a lot of our approvals, because we go through torsion tests, we go through, it's a dynamic torsion test, we go through dual temperature cycling tests, we go through bend tests, shock and vibe, water hammer tests. There's a bunch of vibration tests. There's a bunch of different tests in that PS117 by IATMO. We used to have the LC1002 from ICC. I think that still exists too. I just always focus on the IATMO one because they're really the same, to be honest with you. When you look at the testing, it's just one's ICC, one's IATMO. Then there's the ASME B31.1, 0.3, and 0.9. That's for pressure vessels, power piping, so there's a lot of different things there. So I wanted to demonstrate today a 1-inch MegaPress carbon steel fitting application. I have an assembly right behind me, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to press a 90. In the sake of time, I've already prepped the female adapter on here and hooked up my hydrostatic tester, and I already prepped the cap, and that's already pressed. But I'm going to press the 90 live because I don't want anybody on here to think it's smoke and mirrors, because then we're going to pressure test this, because you can actually pressure test hydrostatically our press fittings up to 600 PSI if need be, because the IATMO PS117, they actually pressure test our systems through all these different tests to 400 PSI. So that brings me to another point. Out of the box, if somebody says, hey, what is that fitting rating to? Out of the box, I say 200 PSI. I always do that because I don't know your application yet. If you just say, hey, what's that fitting? I'm like, oh, 200 PSI, it's Press Connect. So it's 200 PSI. Well, and then they do a 2x safety factor in IATMO and pressure test and do all the tests to 400 PSI. So with that, if you have a water type application, if it's domestic water, potable water, if you have a hydronic heating or chilled water application, we can actually approve, and you get a hold of my team in tech support, we can actually approve applications up to 400 PSI. So if you see something in the manual, right, and it's not within your specifications, like, oh, I guess I can't do it, don't just walk away, call us, because we know the performance of these fittings because of the stringent testing that it goes through, right? So we can actually give you in writing a letter saying we can approve up to 400 PSI. And then code gets in there, because that's why I say, okay, out of the box, 200. But if it's a gas fitting, the CSA listing's at 125. So 125 PSI from the CSA LC4 listing for gas distribution piping. And then I look at the UL-FM listing for fire sprinkler systems. That's 175. So now again, you see how it knocks it down from 200. So again, now I'm like, okay, what's your application? But if I'm looking at domestic, I go, oh yeah, that's 200 PSI all day long. Oh, heating and chilled, yep, that's 200 PSI all day long. But if you need an approval outside of that scope, outside of the temperature ranges, outside of the pressure ranges, get a hold of tech support, and we can actually go. We have a process approved by product management, approved by legal, and we have engineers, chemists, and metallurgists on our staff that help us with these applications to review them. And we can go ahead and we can approve way more than you see. We got like, what, 39 pre-approved applications in our tech data sheet. And in our database, we have almost 3,000 or over 3,000 to date that we've reviewed, and 75% of those have been approved. So, you know, sometimes the sealing element's not compatible. Sometimes the alloy isn't compatible. So, you know, we haven't approved everything, but 75% of that 3,000, that's a large amount of projects out there right now. So cool. I'm going to jump behind me and get right into this because I want to show the dynamic torsion test. And I also want to show the bend test with this. And I got my hydrostatic tester. So I've already prepped the pipe, and Bo mentioned if you want to, you know, learn how to properly put these in and get a credential card, you know, we're doing credential trainings the entire month of June. Every week there's a training going on. So just in the sake of time, I'm not going to go through the entire steps, but I've already prepped the pipe. I've already reamed and deburred that pipe because I don't want to cut that sealing element. So, you know, I always take my hand across it. And if I can cut my hand, I could potentially, you know, tear that seal. So just good industry practices. So prep that pipe, mark your insertion depth. You can dry fit. So you can just put this fitting right on here and you can dry fit and mark that with a marker. That's what I did. However, in our pocket guide, we have our insertion depth guide in there. So look at that chart. You can take your tape measure, right? I got my Viega tape measure right here. I can take that, and I believe on a 1 inch, it's about 1 3/16 of an inch for insertion depth. And then, of course, there's a, you know, an insertion depth gauge. That depth gauge goes right on that pipe, and you line it up with 1 inch and make your mark. So now when you do it with your tape measure or you mark it with the insertion depth gauge, that's your minimal insertion depth. Right? When you dry fit, that's your max because you're butting that shoulder all the way up and you're, you know, snug. So just remember that there's about 1/8 of an inch difference. Right? So I always get that question: is there some play with a fitting, a press fitting? You know, does it have to be in all the way? You know, what does that look like? There is a little bit of play. It's 1/8 of an inch, right? Because it's between the minimum insertion depth and the maximum insertion depth. So, but you want to make sure that you have that metal to metal connection. You'll make sure the seal is sealing on the surface of the pipe. So I've already prepped all that. I put my press gun in the shade because if you're not aware of the press tools, they have a microprocessor on there. And I know we went over tools last time, but that microprocessor, if it started glowing a red light at me, that would be a temperature. It's a hydraulic press tool. So the temperature range is 15 degrees Fahrenheit to 122. Now, it's only 70 degrees out here today, but when it's baking in the sun, it could heat up. So I just wanted to keep it in the shade anytime possible, or in the wintertime, you know, maybe I'll wrap a scarf around it or keep it in my truck. So I had it in my garage there. So I open up this jaw here, put this on the hub of that fitting. It's a 3-piece jaw. I got the saddle on there, line that right up. And then I just go ahead and squeeze that trigger. Now, if you noticed, I have an open palm. So that open palm is so I don't have my hand wrapped around that fitting when I squeeze that trigger. Because if I squeeze that trigger, my finger's in the way, that's going to hurt. So safety first, you know, hands on plastic, open palm. So if you need to keep that plumbing level, you want to make sure your hands are out of the way. So just good practice and safety when it comes to tooling. Okay, got that there. I've already prepped this piece of pipe here. Got my cap on here, 1 inch. Put that right in. Now with this too, you know, another episode, we'll probably talk about deflection and how to control it, but I already put my level on here. You can see there's some play in here. That's the hub of the fitting. That's the Smart Connect technology as well. So that tolerance in that hub of that fitting, that play, that is allowing us to give you a 100% proven method to identify an unpressed fitting, because that's not going to hold pressure. All right, I could actually go right ahead, pressure test this up, and I got water squirting right out of there. So that is your 100% guarantee from Viega, 100% proven method, third-party tested for our Smart Connect technology. And I can actually pressure test this, right? And I can press this. I don't have to drain this back down. I can press this with water in the system. So fully pressurized systems are partially. Now fully, I always think about safety, right? So in a fully pressurized system, you're cutting into a line. What is that pressure? You know, a lot of pressure, high pressure, you got to cut in the line, that pipe can move and smash you right in the face. Something could happen. So please, everybody, be safe out there when you're doing this, but you technically can press on a fully pressurized system. Partially pressurized would be better and safer. So if you can't get that gate valve to close all the way, or there's no ball valve in line or something like that, and you got to cut into that, you know, that water's shooting out, you can jam a ball valve on, make that press, close it. I would put a trash bag over your tool though. You know, there's some electronics there, so try to put a raincoat or a trash bag over that. Just, you know, where the tool is, not the head. The head's okay, but just don't get the tool soaking wet. I've got mine pretty wet before and it's been fine. Just don't submerge it in the water, right? So I got that right here. Gonna make my press on this other 90. There's water in the system, as you see. I'm gonna try to sit here and line this up. Now you can feather this trigger. As a welder, I consider that tacking the fitting. And what that does on this RP340, it's really the only one you can feather. This is an RP340 from Rigid. No other tool out there you can actually feather. So I can feather that trigger, look at my level, and then complete my press. And now I know I'm plumb, level, and straight. So I'm good there. It's a little trick to control deflection, because as a pipe fitter plumber, I like my work looking good. Deflection doesn't hurt the performance of the fitting. You can bend that. Now, legally, all I can say is 3 to 5 degrees is what Viega is going to allow. That's our stance. Again, we like to have those safety factors built in, but you're going to see something really cool right here. So I'm going to go ahead and pressurize this system up, and we're going to do a torsion rotation test. Let me bring my camera with me because I want you to see me pressurize this system up so you know it's not smoke and mirrors or anything like that. So let me turn my camera around, right? Here we go. Fat fingers. All right. Nice. So here we go. Hopefully you can see that there. I know there's some sun in the way. So, all right. It's a hydrostatic tester from Rothenberg. Sorry, my Rigid comrades, my buddies out in Rigid. I blew my Rigid one up trying to blow up some Viega PEX tubing the other day because I like destructive testing. So it's a lot of fun. All right. So you see right here, 200 PSI. Now I can actually pressure test this up to 600 PSI. Ready? Oh, don't spill the water. There we go. Almost. I don't go to the gym like Bo. He works out all the time. Look at that. A little over 600 PSI. We got no leaking fittings anywhere. Look at that. Look at that. That's good. All right. Now for safety, I'm going to drop this down. Again, I'm all about the safety when it comes to the field, just in case maybe somebody's online that wants to yell at me. All right, 200 PSI. That is our normal operating pressure, 200 PSI.
Hey, Troy.
Yeah, buddy.
What, you know, let's say that was a riser sticking out of the ground there with that coated pipe and somebody backed their skid steer into it. What would happen?
Perfect question. So that's what I want to show you. I want to show you the rotation because I always get the question about that. People get nervous about if the fitting moves. If the fitting moves like 3/8 of an inch, or 1/4 of an inch, or something like that, or it vibrates, or somebody hits it with a skid steer and it tweaks. So let me show you that because this is really cool stuff. So, all right, so here we go. So what I'm going to do is now, some of the people online, some of my Viega colleagues might cringe when I do this. And there's a reason for that. Because some people go, oh my God, and they freak out and they go, don't show people that. We don't want them to see it. And I want them to see it. I want them to see that because these are testing we actually do with IATMO, and you can actually rotate this fitting. Now, when you rotate the fitting, you're going to use a pipe wrench. That pipe wrench is going to go on the pipe. You're not going to put a pipe wrench or anything on the hub of that fitting because you could actually hurt or distort or destroy that mechanical integrity. So if I need to rotate this or move it, I'm going to put the pipe wrench on there. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate this down. And this is still under pressure at 200 PSI. Nothing's moved. I can actually rotate that back. Here we go. And that's the dynamic torsion test that we actually do with IATMO PS117. Now, to keep consistent, now I don't need to repress a mega press fitting. I don't need to. But to stay consistent, if I'm running a mechanical shop, right, and I got a crew of 20, 50, 65, 100 guys, whatever it is, 250 guys, I want to make sure there's consistency at my shop. So with pro press fittings, you can do the same exact thing, but you need to repress pro press fittings. Why? Because it's a semi-rigid tubing that it's pressing onto. The alloy is semi-rigid. It's more malleable, right? More pliable. So in order to regain that structural integrity, I repress that pro press fitting on 1/2 to 2 inch. You have that hexagonal deformation. That's your mechanical strength. And I want to line the jaws back up with that, so flat sides to flat sides. And I repress that fitting. It shores it back up. It makes sure it has a structural integrity. Make sure the seal is sealing on the surface of that tube, and you're good to go. With Mega Press, the fitting, let me grab a fitting real quick. So the fitting right here, the guts on the inside, they're pressed onto that pipe. They're not moving. What's moving is the hub around those guts. So the guts, everything, the mechanical strength, the grip ring, the sealing of it, they're not moving. So they're staying on there and they're sealed up. So it's not leaking, right? Nothing happened to it. But to maintain consistency, I always tell everybody on the field, and I think everybody should say this, is if you can, just go back. If you're the one that physically moves the pipe, just to ensure that structural integrity, go ahead, make sure your tool's on, and repress that fitting. You can repress Viega fittings as many times as you want. So that's one thing that we have, other than our competitors. Certain competitors out there actually tell you not to repress their fitting system. So you can actually repress our fitting system as much as you want. So I always say that. Now, swing joints, gas system, where it actually can be used on a swing joint, because what happens with a swing joint, it consists of 3 to 6 90s. You got your gas riser that comes up and you create your swing joint. And the reason why you do that is because if the ground settles or somebody hits it, that swing joint moves and it doesn't snap the riser, causing a catastrophic leak of natural gas pouring out at 65 PSI or more. So that's why swing joints are there. Our swing joints are better than a threaded swing joint, because with a threaded swing joint, when it moves, because the way that method goes together, you're tightening one and loosening the other. So 9 times out of 10, you still have a leak. It just didn't snap the riser, so it did its job. But with Viega Mega Press G fittings on a gas riser with a swing joint, when it moves either way, you're not loosening or tightening. It's maintaining its static seal the entire time. So that's what's great about Viega fittings, is you can have that rotation and movement, and Mega Press is not going to leak, and you saw that. So this is still pressurized to 200 PSI right here. The next thing that we do is a bend test. Now the bend test with IATMO is there's pipe stands about 6 feet apart from each other, and the fitting comes in as a coupling. And they put weight on it, and then that pulls it down, so it starts doing this and goes down until eventually they try to just snap it, right? So that's the whole point. But there's obviously a minimum and a maximum that they test to. So with that, I have this pressurized, and what I'm going to do is show you a bend test. So let's see if I can do this. I drink a lot of Bud Heavy and eat potato chips, Bo, so, So here we go. "200 PSI, no leaks, no drips. Let me show you that gauge, just so you see it. That gauge actually spiked because I pinched the fitting system. So that gauge actually spiked up. I'm almost at 250, 300 PSI right now.
Yeah, don't do that at 600 PSI, Troy. Ask me how I know.
Hey, Bo, how do you know? Did you blow up your hydrostatic tester when that happened?
Yeah, I did, actually. Yeah. I blew the gauge anyway.
I bet. Oh, look at my dirty garage that I'm in the middle of cleaning here. There we go. Doing spring cleaning in there. Perfect. Whew, it's hot out today, man.
Troy, you think you could straighten that back out?
You know what? I mean, Mega Press is very strong. Let's see if I can. I'm not going to guarantee I can, Again, I'm not part of the strong man. Yeah, he's jacked, man. So I need to send him out. So here you go. I just got the old plumber strength, the old plumber strength. That's all I got. That's the best I'm going to do before I drop a lung. So
I think you should repress it and take it up to 600 PSI. I don't believe you.
No problem, my friend. I like this. This is fun. All right, let me show the folks at home what's going on here because I want them to see this. That again, there's no leaks.
That's amazing.
I mean, look at this. Look, I mean, this is Viega engineering for you. No stress cracks. No, I mean, no stretch marks or anything. You know, look at that. I mean, this is unbelievable. The strength, the integrity, the quality of manufacturing that Viega puts into their fittings is unbelievable. And this is, I mean, I would not do this with any other joining method, but this is how well and how much I believe in this fitting system. Look at that, 600 PSI, bam.
You know, Troy, if I were on a job site and someone backed the skid steer into my riser and that happened and I wasn't prepared to excavate it and cut that fitting out, which if that happened, that's what we would want you to do. You wouldn't just put that fitting, now that Troy's tortured, you wouldn't put that in the system and let it run. But I wouldn't have to have a fire drill that day. I could plan for it the next day. I could rope it off and say, you know what, we're going to fix this tomorrow. I didn't blow anything up. I didn't cause a leak. I didn't flood anything. And I can execute a repair. It's not the end of the world. Probably wouldn't even back charge the contractor except for maybe the cost of the fitting. You know, cut the guy a break and whoever had to dig it up. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't be a crisis. And I think that's really important. Honestly, I got to say it, if that were a threaded fitting, that pipe would have snapped at the threads. And that's because we take away material. So your SKED 10 wall thickness on a threaded SKED 40 pipe, and unfortunately it probably would have snapped. So that was a pretty compelling test, Troy, for people to see there.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what, I mean, I just want everybody to know that speccing, you know, mega press fittings or pro press fittings, it's speccing Viega. And to Bo's point, make sure it's a true Viega fitting by that colored dot on the fitting. No other manufacturer does that. That's a Viega identifier, right? So you know you have a true Viega fitting when you see that colored dot, whether it's a green dot, yellow dot, or white dot. So you know you have this type of strength and integrity at a Viega fitting. So if you're out there installing them, you're out there specifying them, designing with them as an engineer, you're out there selling them, you can be confident putting these fittings in. You can be confident speccing these fittings, confident selling these fittings, because it's a quality system that you can sleep at night. Because you're absolutely right. In an emergency situation, I can't cut this out. It's not leaking. I can be like, hey, I'm going to come back tomorrow, get all the fittings, the pipe, get my crew here. We'll take care of it. But you know what? Nothing's going to happen. It's holding pressure, even after that type of bend or, you know, jostling or even seismic testing. So we actually went through and we hired an engineering firm that tests all type of building materials. And so we're the only ones in this type of realm of fitting systems that has a legit seismic test. And we pressure test at 200 PSI, and then they shake it to mimic different magnitudes of earthquake. And we accelerated, we hit over 4 Gs. Now, I'm no engineer, so Google acceleration, G-force, or over 4 Gs in an earthquake. That's something like a 9.0, something over a 9.0 magnitude earthquake we can handle. So your building will fall down, but the Viega fittings will stand up strong. So, I mean, quality product.
So a question came in, Troy, regarding MegaPress G, and the question was from Mark Wayman. What he's asking is, how perfect does the pipe have to be? He's talking about pipe prep, and he's saying that most pipe that he's running into from Lowe's or Home Depot, even after prepping it, still has a lot of divots and scratches. And it could be the pipe, the quality of pipe that they're getting from your supplier, but a lot of times even Lowe's and Home Depot, they're selling USA made pipe. So, you know, it's probably pretty good pipe. So say 53 for a gas line, of course, you want to make sure. But you're going to prep the pipe to the point, I don't know if you've got prep equipment there, Troy, I can run in the workshop.
I do.
Get it,
Yeah, no,
it'd probably be good to show them.
Absolutely.
You want to prep the pipe so it's smooth, and you get a little bit of, you'll see some freckling where some of the varnish or the shellac has sanded off when you're sanding it. You'll see some scratching in the pipe. If you can get your fingernail in there, keep prepping. But it's not uncommon to see some scratches and divots, and that sealing element is still going to seal that pipe surface. And Troy's going to show you right now what that looks like close up on camera.
So I actually have, this is Wheatland pipe. I buy a lot of Wheatland pipe. I think it's a quality, piping manufacturer. I like them. And so maybe it's not the crappiest piece of pipe, that you've seen, but right here, what Bo's talking about, when I prep this pipe, I just used a piece of Scotch-Brite, and all I do is 10, 15 seconds by hand, just trying to smooth that out. Now that 10 to 15 seconds could vary depending on import, domestic, what kind of, shellac, lacquer, epoxy, cosmoline spray that they put on here. But what you're seeing right here is that freckling, right? I'm just smoothing it out, right? But it's still rough. I can actually still feel there's some divots in here, and I can feel where the weld lap seam is. That's okay, because the sealing elements in a carbon steel mega press fitting, 1/2 to 2 inch, they actually have ribs or ridges on the seal itself, and that is designed specifically for the surface of the pipe, because we know black steel pipe, import, domestic, it's actually the roughness, the surface roughness is all different. The quality is all different. So you actually prep the pipe, every single one, all the same. So I think on one of our episodes or on Instagram, I was talking about a flapper wheel on the end of a drill. I do like that, right? Because then I can just walk that right around, right? So I can walk that right around that pipe, and it's just a faster way to prep that shellac or that cosmoline spray or that epoxy off there. So you're just trying to get it smooth. You don't need to buff this up like chrome rims on a hot rod, and that's all you're doing. Now, if you're doing galvanized steel pipe, do not use a flapper wheel. That galvanized kind of, you're going to breathe that in. It's going to throw it in the air. So use Scotch-Brite or sandcloth and do it by hand if you're using galvanized A53 pipe.
Yeah, galvanized is pretty smooth to begin with. Something Troy pointed out with that flap wheel on his drill, don't confuse that with a flap wheel disc for a 4-inch angle grinder, okay? So if you tell somebody, say, hey, I heard you can use a flap wheel for that, make sure you're really clear. It goes in your drill, you chuck it in your cordless drill, not a flap wheel grinder, 4-inch for your angle grinder, because that will literally take metal off the pipe. That's not what you're looking for. So want to just be clarified, because they're both called the same thing. So you just have to make sure you know what you're talking about. But you can get those at Home Depot, you can get them at Lowe's, you can get them at your supply house, painting supply, so forth and so on. Easy to find those flap wheel attachments for your drill in there. It's a fast way, especially if you're prepping a lot of stuff or larger diameter. Man, you get up into 2.5 through 4. Really handy to have that power tool a lot faster to get the prep. Mark your pipe, go up to the line, you're good to go. So someone asked if a linear scratch is worse than a perpendicular scratch, axial versus radial. The answer to everything is it depends, right? Depends on how deep the scratch is. If it's a really gnarly scratch, like someone drug it across the sill of a loading dock and it really gouged the pipe or something like that, if you can sand it till it's smooth, great. If you can't, it's got a huge gouge in it, probably want to cut that section of pipe off and use it for your threaded nipple for your drip leg or something like that, or your takeoff off your appliance. But usually you're going to be fine. I've really never seen any. We did a gas pipe job for a brewery here in Colorado that was all 2-inch, and it was a huge run of pipe. And we got domestic pipe that had track marks in it. So it was ERW pipe, so it wasn't seamless. You had a seam down it, and it goes on, it starts out flat in the extruder, it runs down the extruder, and they turn it into pipe. And there's track marks that roll that tubing around from the rollers. And it was just like railroad tracks right down the pipe. And we sanded it down. We used a flap wheel grinder or attachment for our drill, just like Troy just showed you, used some sand cloth, and we were able to smooth that pipe out and did not have a single problem. We started the job at 8 o'clock in the morning. We were off-site eating lunch, done on test, waiting for the inspector by noon. So that was 2-inch, 15 feet in the air. So it's still really fast. And even with the extra prep time, we just didn't have a problem. So a little bit of common sense, a little bit of care, just take a look at the pipe. You'll know when you get it nice and smooth. And of course, you get your Viega DM out there. Viega sales factor salespeople will come out to your job site and give you a quick dissertation on it as well. So we got another question. Yeah, go ahead, Troy. Sorry.
One thing that I'm glad you talked about that, because one thing that comes to my mind too is sometimes stamped pipes. Some manufacturers are putting stamps, so many sections down the pipe, and we haven't run into it very often. And maybe in quality, we've run into it once or twice. But that stamp was such a fine etch that the sealing element couldn't seal in that stamp. So just be careful of that too. Yeah, to Bo's point, if you can catch that, if it's a deep gouge, the sealing element can't get into that. So yeah, going up and down the pipe, that scratch, that one I want to take a little more concern with and look at and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to prep this down, smooth this out more. But if it's the other way around, circumference around the pipe, that's not a concern.
So we got another question that came in, if a Milwaukee press tool will work with our fitting. I'm assuming we're talking about Mega Press in this case, because that was the example that Troy used.
Yeah, so so Milwaukee Tools, they actually have what they call BIP jaws and ring sets for iron pipe size press technology. So they do, and it does work. So I always recommend, if you're looking at a different tooling platform than Rigid, because obviously, we partner Rigid, our jaws that are manufactured, they actually say Mega Press right on them by Rigid. They're designed, exclusively for our fittings. I mean, the dimensions, the tolerances, smack dab with our fitting system. So go on the tooling manufacturer's website, whether it's Milwaukee, DeWalt, Hilti, or anybody, and they have a tooling matrix, and they will actually go through and tell you what they're approving their tooling platforms for, which fitting company, which fitting sizes, all that. But I will say the BIP press jaws for the Milwaukee M18 standard tools, they work. Milwaukee also has an M12 with compact jaws for Mega Press. So they, again, BIP jaws, and those work as well. So yes, Viega is going to warranty the fitting regardless of the tooling used, because we warranty our fitting against manufacturer defects. But just make sure that that tooling that you decide to use is approving their system for that fitting, right? So just go on their website and check that out. But to make sure you have quality assurance, I always promote Rigid. I was using Rigid tool. I always use everything Rigid, just because I know hand in hand. That way, if there's anything, I can contact my Rigid rep and work it out with him and just have that kind of joint partnership. But yeah, definitely. And if you need that tooling matrix as well, get a hold of my tech support team. We have every manufacturer's tooling matrix, because we're here to support you any way that we can.
Awesome, Troy. Thank you. So another question came in. If you would take this one, I am going to we keep getting questions about valves. I'm going to go grab something from the workshop to show off, and then we're about ready to wrap up. But this is a great question. We've had this question come out in Colorado as well, and I think it's a fantastic question. I wish Jeremy Ferreter was here, but I know that you'll be able to answer this one. It's coming. So will Viega ever obtain a higher fire sprinkler rating for high-rise jobs for Mega Press? The 300 PSI rating is needed from UL or FM. So if you want to tackle that one, and I'm going to go grab something from the workshop.
All right, awesome. So we are always working with our codes and standards management, our management team in that, and they're always looking at the different markets that it's in. And currently right now we are looking at, commercial applications for fire sprinkler with PEX and seeing how we can do that. Because currently for PEX, it's 13D residential. For high rise, for higher pressure, right? Like you mentioned, it's 175 PSI. That's the UL FM listing that we have, that NFPA references, right? NFPA 13R systems for commercial buildings. That's what they're referencing. But if you're going to be on a high-rise building with booster pumps, and you're going to be increasing that pressure. Now, I said this earlier, we as Viega can give you that, approval in writing, but it's all about those codes and standards. So we are constantly looking into stuff like that, to seeing what it takes to achieve that. It's it's one of those projects, I'll tell you, it's fascinating. I'm actually interested in it. I love sitting down with my codes and standards managers and kind of geeking out on this stuff, but I didn't realize how long of a process it took, to start a project, get it tested, get it listed, get that certificate of compliance, then rewrite the code book to make sure they're referencing that standard. So it is a long haul process to do all that, but we're constantly looking to add listings and certifications. And Viega has one of the, they have more listings and certifications than any press fitting company on the market. So we're definitely looking into stuff like that, and we'll keep you posted. again, I know I keep plugging my guys, my guys and my girls out there, and tech support. But tech support, we can actually get you the certificates, listings. We can follow up. You have a question, email them. They can actually follow up with the codes and standards manager, see where any projects are. Currently we're working on fill and vent for megapress G for oil tanks. That's huge in New England. So storage tanks, there was never a standard written to actually be approved for that. So we had to work with the agencies, create one, and now one's created, and it's hopefully now going through the testing process. I don't know where it is right now, but it's all been approved. Looking at it, the verbiage is good. Got to go through the testing. So pretty soon, hopefully, the end of the year, next year. Again, I hate giving timelines at this time in our country status, but we're looking to have that UL listing to actually approve megapress G on fill and vent in your code book. We approve heating oil. It's chemically compatible, but a lot of jurisdictions reference that NFPA code book. I think it's 3031, which is fill and vent, right? And we're not written in there yet, but we will be. So always send those questions in, and we'll keep you posted when new listings or certifications come up.
That's awesome, Troy. Thank you. A couple things came in. So a question about CSA approval on fuel oil, and I'll let you take that one. And then also I want to point something out that came up with regard to megapress and a tri-stand, but go ahead with the CSA. That came from Matthew.
Okay, yeah, CSA, same thing where CSA, we got to look into Canadian standards. So the UL listing that we're testing to here in the States for heating fuel, that's what we're going to use here. We don't know if that's going to, translate up into Canada. So there, again, right now with CSA, there is nothing in there that will test us, just like diesel fuel in Canada. In the States, I can use diesel fuel in the States, and we're actually listed and tested and approved. I can't do that in Canada because there is, again, no standard to test to. It's the same thing with PEX tubing. Everybody always asks about PEX tubing and compressed air. There's no standard to test to get it approved for compressed air and testing with the oil, in the system to make sure it's, chemically compatible with the PEX. So again, it all goes back to, is there a standard that we can physically test to? And not just Viega testing it. This is, third-party agencies, IATMO, ICC, CSA, ASME, ASSE, all those ones. That's who we work with, right? Professionals. So currently right now, I'm not sure where we sit with, getting a diesel fuel or heating fuel standard written and tested in Canada, but in the States, we're working on it.
Thanks, Troy. So I apologize. I wanted to show you a really cool, I think you got somebody unmuted by accident here. Not sure what happened there. Getting some feedback there.
Yeah, I was getting a little feedback, yeah.
Yeah, that was strange. So I wanted to show you a 4-inch megapress ball valve. Unfortunately, our building's been disinfected and that ball valve has been stored, and it would take me longer than we have to dig it out of the pile that it's in right now. So I think look for a future episode on valves. I think then we will get that on camera for you. So a question came in if it was going to be a butterfly or a ball, and I can tell you it's going to be a ball valve. Another thing that came in, and I just want to point out, is a really good point, and thanks, Frank, for shouting out about this. When using megapress, if you put it in the tri-stand, okay, and you really lock it down in the tri-stand, you could get those longitudinal bite marks in your pipe. So just be careful where you've locked it into the tri-stand, that you clean that up really well. And if you've got a good tri-stand and your jaws are clean, everything, you don't need a ton of torque to hold that down. Again, we're not really threading on the tri-stand with megapress. We're just holding things while we press it. So now you don't need to kill it. In fact, Ridge is equipping tri-stands with rubber jaws now. So you can put those down over your jaws and lock your pipe down the same way. So just keep that in mind, that you don't have to lock it down so tight, because we're not threading. We're certainly not running a mule on it. So we can press up to 4-inch. So Troy, we're at 11:59, buddy. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's awesome. This was great. I mean, time flies. I mean, there's so much we could do and so much we could talk about, but we want to make sure we don't take you away from your busy days. But I want to thank everybody for being here. And we are going to be launching our next episode. So episode 3 will be June 3rd, I believe, Bo, at 6 p.m. Central.
6 p.m. Central.
Awesome. So we're going to sit there and, go back and forth with the 12 p.m. Central and 6 p.m. Central just to, hit everybody in different time zones and target audiences. I believe I just got a text message from one of our Viega guys in Canada saying the UL 180 that we're actually testing to will harmonize up in Canada. So thank you very much. I believe that was Kevin Sawyer that just texted me. So thank you very much, Kevin, for that, because I wasn't aware. So thank you. And that's why we have Viega, factory Viega guys in every location, because they're your feet in the street. They're going to know your territory. They're going to know your mechanical board. They're going to know your inspectors. They're going to know everything inside and out. We have technical managers, industrial managers, everything. So we have a whole team behind Bo and I that we work with and collaborate with. So trust me, we don't know everything. We just shake an 8-ball and run it. So, so thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that.
That's awesome. Yeah, Troy and I have your back, but you should see who has our back. Wow, it's pretty amazing. So thanks everybody for coming. We really appreciate having you today. Couple quick things. You'll get the link for the next episode in your email today, so you'll know when the next one's coming up. Please register. We'd love to see you again. Also, if you haven't yet, check out vigarewards.us, okay? Or vigarewards.us, and sign up for the Viega Rewards program. The more you buy, the more you get. You can use your points for tooling, Viega swag. You can also use your points for training trips. Get out to New Hampshire, see Troy. Come out to Colorado, see me, and all of our awesome trainers in both locations. Please use your Viega Rewards. And last but not least, if you've got an idea or you would like us to cover something on Tech Talk Live, email us at techtalk@viga.us. techtalk@viga.us. If we use your idea on the air, we'll give you a shout out and we'll send you some cool Viega swag. So thanks everybody for tuning in. It was awesome having you. We'll see you next time on Tech Talk Live.
All right. See you later, brother. Talk to you soon.